Here, Beyond the Trailer Park. This is Heretic Woman. Good to see you all. And I would like to introduce to you, of course, the one and only Dave Boda, who is more than willing to come and help us out here. Hi, Dave.
Hello.
Hey. And of course, our good friend Beth, who you may also know as Dune, always hanging out in the chat room. And here she is hanging out with us now. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I am awesome. So first of all, we wanted just to have a shout out to Cash and say, hey man, we love you, we miss you, we hope everything's going okay. We understand shit happens, life happens. So we kind of borrowed the name Atheists on Air because, well, we all need a fix. We all need to, have some rationality in our week. So here we are. We're outside the trailer park, and we're hoping we can come up with something, at least mildly entertaining. We can't be Cash, but we can be something, right?
Yep.
All right, guys. So, what are we up to tonight?
Well, I'm about 5 foot.
I got you beat by an inch, so there we go.
Okay.
So
I got you beat by 9 inches.
yeah, we
Ooh,
know
that
that.
sounded bad, didn't it?
Yeah, well, we know, Dave.
Yeah, we're not gonna touch that one. Ouch.
So something came across my G Plus today, which normally I don't spend a lot of time looking at, but I was putting this all together, and there was a story came across from Dan Arel. I don't know if anybody knows him. He's put out what looks like an awesome book about parenting for godless folk. But he also has a Pathos blog, and he did a review on the Bill Nye Ken Ham, well, the book Ken Ham wrote about his so-called debate that he tried to have. And it was an interesting take on it. Basically, no one really learned anything new about the Younger's creation crowd, but it was the same kind of crap, and turns out the book is mostly a rehash of the debate. But it brings up an interesting point because we see this a lot lately, and I'm on Twitter fairly regularly, and just today, as Dave can attest because he was involved in that conversation, we had some silly person talking about creationism. And it kind of, we were talking about, well, why is it that, religious folks and the sort of nut jobs really go for this young earth creation stuff. So I thought that might be something to talk about. So what do you guys
This
think?
this was the guy that goes by Voice in the Desert, wasn't it?
Yes. The lovely gentleman that tried to give me an exorcism over Twitter a couple weeks ago. Yes.
Oh.
Oh
Ouch.
yes. Oh yes.
Ouch.
Very very special fellow from Nigeria. Yes.
Oh, that's even better.
Even better. I know.
Well,
Yeah.
he's probably looking to give you, a few $1 million as long as you give him your bank account number.
Well, he was telling me he follows some preacher over there called TB Joshua. And if you guys ever want a few minutes of utter ridiculousness, go look him up on YouTube. He's fucking hilarious. But this guy, he claims he can raise the dead. And he does deliverance, which I know Beth knows lots about, and that's basically exorcism. He does it in his church and over the internet via YouTube and fun stuff.
Exorcism light.
Exorcism light, yes. And of course our friend on Twitter, he thought that, if I was to go to TB Joshua's church, which of course is in Nigeria, and nothing happens, then he would quit Christianity. But yeah, I don't think he's going to pay for my plane ticket.
I'd be afraid to go over there at the moment,
Um,
considering some of the crack jobs that are coming out of there. I mean, as far
oh
as
yes.
there was I've posted a couple links, a couple stories about the guy that supposedly turned gasoline into pineapple juice.
Oh, fabulous.
What? What is
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, it was a story. This guy supposedly, he's the one, I can't remember the name off of the top of my head, he first hit the news because he made his followers eat grass. Okay, now last week it was he supposedly turned gasoline. They had a bowl, liquid in it. They threw a match. It, of course, lit up, and then he transformed it into pineapple juice and drank it. Yeah, so there's some interesting religious zealotry coming out of Africa, not just Nigeria, but Tanzania. They're having the witch hunts still.
You know,
So yeah.
that kind of sounds like the guy in, I want to say it's either Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, who is who insists that you can get all of the nutrients that your body needs just by staring at the sun.
Oh, breatharians.
Whoa. Doesn't that impair your eyesight after a while?
Yeah, it's called you go blind.
I was always taught that if you look at the sun too long, you're gonna get fucked up. But that's
Yeah.
just me. Wow. Yeah. So our friend there, he was talking about, oh shit, what was some of the goofy stuff he was saying? Like, oh, well, of course he had to talk about monkeys because they all talk about monkeys at some point. But talking about us coming out of the ocean or something, I don't know. But yeah, it was pretty obvious that he wasn't actually interested in learning something. He just, wanted to spout his crap. But
Well, it's like we were talking earlier today. Like any author, they use a script when they do their interviews, and it's like the creationists in general. That's what they use. They use a script. They have their quote talking points. I mean, even politicians do it too. So it's not an unusual thing. And they always somehow they will hit. Let's say they have 10 talking points. They will hit all 10, no matter what they have to do to get to it. But to me, with creationism, I mean, one of the downfalls for me is that you take away the creation story, you take away Genesis 1 through 3, you take that all out, and you have nothing left in the Bible, really, because that's the foundation. And if you can annihilate creationism with science, they have nothing to stand on.
That's exactly right, Beth. The one of the biggest reasons that they reject evolution is because if evolution happened, then Adam didn't happen.
Yeah.
And therefore, whatever sacrifice Jesus might have made is completely in vain because there was no original sin to begin with.
Yeah.
So they have to go against evolution from a theological standpoint, because if they accept evolution, the foundations for Christianity completely crumble.
Yeah.
So how did because I've come across lots of Christians too that say, oh, well, God started it, but evolution's okay, we can accept that. So how do they get around that?
The gap theory.
Because, the Catholic Church has come out to say, oh, well, we think evolution's okay, we can accept that. And they're probably one of the most dogmatic bunches around.
Well, those that I've come in contact with basically say that evolution is a tool of God. God started it, and then he let evolution take hold. But that doesn't work for young Earth creationists.
Yeah.
Well, technically speaking, it doesn't work for old Earth creationists either.
Well, yeah.
Because you're still left with the same problem. If evolution occurred, then there was no Adam.
Yeah. Yeah, but for some reason, especially at least with the old Earth creation I've dealt with, they don't see that. It's like...
Why would they?
Well, yeah, it's mind-boggling because, I mean, it's like, it's still, like you said, it's still the same thing. You eliminate the creation story, you eliminate the need for the Bible and the need for Christ's redemption. Sorry.
I don't necessarily know. Excuse me. I don't necessarily know that you eliminate the Bible itself.
Well, yeah.
You definitely eliminate the underlying need for the Bible.
Yeah, that's probably a better way of stating it.
Well, yeah, it comes back to the whole, we created the illness, so you need the cure. Well, if the illness isn't there, then what do we need the cure for?
Yeah.
Yeah. The hang on a second. I'm going to pull up a link here, and this is one that I sent the heretic woman just a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
When we were talking about this, it's an article from the National Center for Science Education on basically why the word evolution is probably not a good word to use when describing evolution, and I know that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense just me saying it like that. But if you read the article, it actually does make a lot of sense. One of the biggest problems that young Earth creationists, fundamentalist Christians have, is this idea that they really do not understand what evolution is.
Right. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm wondering if that's the same article I had read before.
I just sent it to you.
Yeah.
And I am having trouble with my computer right now. I can't even get this link. Here we go. Let's see if it'll open.
I'm going to post the link in YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
It's a good article. It really is a good article. And it's by Stephanie Keep. It was posted today, actually. And apparently she's part of the Science League of America, which I think may be tandem to the National Center for Science Education. And the article itself starts out: a few weeks ago in Misconception Monday, I discussed the all too common misunderstanding that individuals evolve. As part of that piece, I attempted to explain why descent with modification is a better definition for evolution than the old standard change over time. Well, realistically speaking, change over time is not really a good definition to use either.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, because evolution is simply the product of chemical changes in alleles. But
Right.
nobody is going to glom onto that definition and try and use it.
Well, I mean, I told you guys it was a couple of weeks ago now, I went and saw as a guy, an Australian, and actually claims to be a friend of Ken Ham, was speaking here locally, a guy named Peter Sparrow.
Oh,
And,
yeah, you told me about that.
and he was just spewing the same bullshit that they all do. He had like a pretty little PowerPoint presentation about the whole thing, But I mean, he was coming up with stuff like, well, if evolution is true, then we should see, cows that used to swim in the ocean with dolphins. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Oh, the old crocoduck, which they did, by the way, find.
Yes, yes.
Well, I mean, if he's talking about cows that swim in the ocean, why doesn't he just look at whales?
Yeah, but he had his illustration was a dolphin jumping next to a completely typical Holstein cow jumping next to the dolphin. Like that was his illustration.
Oh, because there is so much truth in that image.
Yeah. And there was another one he had that was like a mishmash of 6 or 8 different animals, part mammal, part reptile, with some fish in there, and oh, well, we should see this sort of thing. It's like, if that's what you think, then you have no idea what evolution really is.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I totally agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the sad thing with this guy, and I told you about this, Dave, is that the talk was very geared towards children. And this was in a church, so a number of people at the talk actually brought their children. There was about 10 or 12 children there. And he would get them parroting, well, if this is so and if that is so, do you think that evolution could be true? And then, oh, no. And getting them involved. And I thought, holy fuck, stop messing up these kids, buddy.
Well,
You know what?
Go ahead,
It
Dave.
kind of makes you wonder who got it from whom. Sparrow get it from Ham, or did Ham get it from Sparrow?
I don't
And
know.
there was a post I made about a month or so ago. I was, for some reason, got sucked into the creation evolution, and it wasn't too long after the debate. And it was at a museum in Denver where a church takes their group through, and they do a creationist, tour of the Natural Museum. And the guy that was leading, they had a video on YouTube. I'll try to post it later in the group
Hmm.
page if y'all want to check it out. And he said almost the exact same thing with asking the kids, well, if this is true, then can if evolution be true?
Yeah.
It's like, as I said, they use a script.
Oh yeah, this guy, and see now this guy Sparrow, he and his wife, they had a, what did they call it, the creation van or bus or something,
Oh,
and
that
they,
Mobile Creation Museum.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a museum, I don't think. It was like a classroom where they would have lectures and shit in it, but they had been driving around Australia in this thing for 17 years.
God, I
And
bet that thing stinks.
I'm hoping he washed it because he was a very large man. But yeah, and like you said, I wonder, did it come from Sparrow or did it come from Ham? And I mean, this Sparrow guy has been at this a long time. It's, who knows whether he was an influencer, whether Ham was an influencer. I just asked him, like, because he's from Australia, like, oh, do you know Canada? Oh, yes, he stayed at my house and we're friends and blah, blah. And I'm like, you shouldn't probably brag about that guy. He said he had yet to meet Ray Comfort, though.
Ugh.
Ray Comfort is, although he's from Australia, he actually lives in California.
Ray Comfort's a Kiwi.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because
Ooh, boy, I bet they hate that.
they do, because one of the local atheists, when I was talking to Sparrow and I said, have you met Mr. Comfort? Oh no, I haven't had the pleasure yet. And he goes, oh, another one of those Aussies. And I'm like, oh no, Kiwi. He's like, don't call him an Aussie. Yeah, no, Kiwi. We pissed off the fundy enough already. Don't insult his country too.
Ugh.
I just find primarily young Earth creations more. I mean, both of them are just very mind-numbing.
Oh, I mean, I had to listen to Sparrow for, what was it, an hour and a half, and
Ugh.
yeah, before he wouldn't allow any comments or questions while his presentation was going. So I had to listen to the whole thing from beginning to end with, and I seriously was biting my lip for quite a while.
You should have just gotten drunk before you went.
You know what? I should have, except you remember what I told you, what else happened, right? I,
Uh,
I found out a week later that my mother-in-law was there and I didn't know she was there.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I managed to squeak by on that one. If I'd have been drunk, no.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. Well, actually, I can imagine being in that situation. I think I would actually relish it.
I would, but like everybody else will be at a disadvantage because I've talked to you guys about this. But she probably wouldn't believe me if I told her I was an atheist. It's not like I hide it, but if I was to sit her down and say, "Look, mother-in-law, I don't believe that stuff. I really am an atheist," she'd be like, "Oh, you're too nice to be an atheist. They're terrible people," and she wouldn't believe me. So I just don't talk about it because it just goes in one ear and out the other anyway. So,
Yeah.
and as it
Or
was,
it's just a phase.
oh no, it wouldn't even be that. It was be like, oh, Pshaw, you're not really, no, you're just saying that.
I have gotten the it's just a phase thing before.
Mm-hmm.
Several of my mother's friends have indicated to her that it must be just a phase that I'm going through.
And it's been how many years now?
I'm not going to answer that because I might give away my age.
Oh.
Mine's at least a 22-year phase. So
I hit 25 years this year as an atheist.
I have not been an atheist that long. I can tell you that.
Okay, well, see.
I have been an atheist a lot longer than I've been a vocal atheist.
Yes, myself included. Yes.
yeah. Well, I think we all go. I'll go through that quote phase.
Oh, for sure.
It's just a phase.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, when the ham debate came out, I mean, just real quick, did you guys think it was a good thing or a bad thing?
I'll let Heretic Woman answer that first because I have some thoughts that are actually rather unpopular on that.
Okay, well, I thought it was a pretty good thing, really. I know a lot of people say, why do people waste time debating these twits because they never change and all of that, but I look at it from the perspective of, yeah, of course those guys aren't going to change, but maybe there's somebody out there watching who, didn't know who to ask some of those types of questions to and might get some answers from watching that kind of thing. And, Ken Ham is just going to sit there and go, well, I have a book and that means I win and that kind of shit. But anybody with half a brain who's really, truly questioning, I think can get something of value out of those sorts of things. And I watch a lot of online debates and intellectual stuff, and oftentimes the science is just like way over my head because I'm a history nerd. I'm not a scientist by any stretch, but I still learn bits and pieces from it, so I think it has its value for sure. So Dave, time to be unpopular.
Well, you just said pretty much what I was going to say.
I think we're on the same page.
But I would add to that that there have been several people that I have talked to, both Christians and atheists, who have asked me, why do you spend time doing this? It's because of the people in the audience. I don't give a shit what my opponent thinks.
Exactly.
Right? If I'm in a digital debate or whatever, if I'm or if I'm on the radio talking with somebody who doesn't agree with me, I don't care what they think. What I care about is the people who are listening and the people who are watching. Those are the people that I can reach, and those are the people that are going to make the difference. And the younger the audience is, the better shot I have at making them see the non-theist side versus the theist side, and how much the theist side lacks simple logic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when Ham and I did the debate, I thought it was a very good thing. This conversation, or the whole issue of theocracy, is present
everywhere.
Everywhere, but particularly in the United States right now. We are more polarized than ever, and religion is at the crux of that polarization. So it's a conversation that needs to be taking place, and the more people who are talking about it, the more this conversation is in the public arena. The faster we're going to get to a resolution. Now, obviously, there's no timetable, but if we just let it seethe and fester, it's never going to get anywhere. We've got to be talking about it. We have to go and engage with the opponent. It has to be public.
Right.
Absolutely. And I've had people, like, you've seen me on Twitter, and I will spend hours, if I have the time, engaging with some moron that absolutely you could tell within 2 or 3 tweets that this person is never going to change their mind. They're totally, drinking large quantities of Kool-Aid, and that's fine. That's whatever. But I engage with those people because, as you say, we don't know who's looking. We don't know who's going to benefit from that. And I have been approached by other Twitter users after the fact and said, hey, I saw you say that thing and I never thought about that. And hey, I like how you worded that, or and that kind of thing, and that's really cool. And in fact, recently, there's a person who I've tweeted with off and on for. I mean, I've only actually been on Twitter for 2 months. Since July, so not very long. But someone who I've tweeted with for most of that time, who always said, he's a theist, and messaged me one day and said, hey, can we talk offline? And I said sure, and had a bunch of questions about certain things and my experiences and whatnot. And next day he was on Twitter as, hey, I'm an atheist. And that was really cool, and it wasn't my intention. I just wanted to answer the guy's questions as honestly as I could, and that's what he needed. So that's the goal right there.
I'll give you something that parallels what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Linford, who's a friend of mine, he's a history professor at a college either in or around Richmond, Virginia. He was having a discussion with one of his students, and they were talking about assisted suicide. And Dan's position is that preventing assisted suicide is a violation of that person's self-determination.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was thinking was that, well, the whole free will thing, if we have free will, then that person's self-determination must be honored. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into the whole,
Mm-hmm.
committing sin or whatever, but the point is, the student who was a Christian, and of course Dan is an atheist, that student came back to him the next day. He said, I really thought a lot about what you just said, and I've changed my mind on assisted suicide.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think
does
stuff like
sometimes
that
happen.
is important. Yeah.
It does.
Well,
it does.
It's just like, okay, Mikey Weinstein from Murph recently went to Patrick Henry College, and they have this speaker series, and basically he was walking into a lion's den, and I know people that have graduated from Patrick Henry. I know that style of schooling. I mean, been there, done that. And he went in, I mean, literally, and I don't think he changed anybody's mind, but Chris Rada did a write-up afterwards about it, and Mikey said that he had a lot of the students from Patrick Henry, which is a ultra-conservative, right-wing, basically, those are the future leaders of the Reich. Going to college, learning the ideology is basically what it is, who actually really appreciated Mike coming there and giving his spiel, and actually made him think. And he actually noted, a couple of the conversations and emails that he had gotten afterwards. So even in the Lions Den, you can make a difference.
Absolutely.
Even if you can get them to think differently. I mean, most of these kids that go to Patrick Henry come out of homeschooling situations, and I'm not picking on homeschooling because I have atheist friends that homeschool their kids. But most of these people are like the Dugars on, 19 Kids and Counting, that type of
Yes.
mentality, that type of atmosphere. That's what the only thing those kids have known. They get a little bit of freedom at Patrick Henry, but not much. So to be exposed to, the view, what Murph does for, the military, and to get them to think along a different line is really important.
Well, I'm going to say something here, not having any more information about it than I do, and not having read Mikey's take on it. I would probably have to assume that they appreciated it, not because they were interested in what he had to say, but they were interested in later attacking what he had to say. And they
I
were
think
using
I think it was a mix.
yeah.
I
Well, see,
think,
and the reason that I say that,
yeah.
and Beth knows this, but I know Heretic Woman does not. I'm the guy who goes to Christian apologetics conferences.
Oh, you told me that.
And the reason that I do it is because I want to see what's coming next.
Yeah. Know thy enemy, as I say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
precisely. Know thy and
I don't think I could keep my mouth shut that long, but so kudos to you.
You haven't seen some of the tweets he puts out during the conferences. They are actually quite comical. That's how I met Dave, basically.
I didn't realize anybody was actually watching this from the last one I was at.
Yeah, the last one, I was just like, some of the tweets, because, I mean, most of the people you were talking about, I mean, for people that don't know, I come from a very fundamentalist, I'm as close to a PK as you can get without being a PK. And then I went to a Christian college. I was a Bible and theology major. I came out an agnostic and a psych major, go figure. So it's like, he's like tweeting about so-and-so and so-and-so, and I'm like having flashbacks in my mind, just chuckling to myself. And I remember though when you started doing it, I'm thinking, how in the hell could you? I lived that for 28 years. I mean, Josh McDowell, Frank Turk. I mean, I've seen those people live. I mean, they were at my college. Billy Graham. It's just like, and I've avoided like anything to do with apologetics for like, I did really good for 27 years. And it's
And
like,
then all of a sudden,
then all of a sudden, this gentleman waltzes into my sphere of influence, and I'm like, because I got kicked out of my apologetics class in college because when, like, I think it was the third week, and he was my advisor, so it made it even harder. And I said, I just raised my hand in class and said, what is the point of all this? I just, so I avoid, like, I mean, I can do the hermeneutics. I can sit there and rip a passage down and get into the Greek and Hebrew, but apologetics just drives me absolutely insane. But when you were tweeting the last conference you were at, I was just rolling because it's like, I don't know how you did it. I
I mean,
couldn't do it.
I had a hard time.
charge on my battery.
I had a hard time for an hour and a half with that guy here. I can't imagine. What is it, like a whole day or 2 days or?
An entire weekend.
Oh, good God! No. I would have thrown something at someone, but
You have to approach it with the right mindset.
Right.
Look, you could pay $150 for a ticket to see Bill Maher or George Carlin when he was alive, whatever. Or you can pay $85 for an entire weekend
Mm-hmm.
and get 2 dozen. That's what this is. I hadn't even remembered that I had been tweeting from the last conference. I did not go to this year's conference. The last one that I was at was last year's.
Yeah.
And the only 2 people that I actually remember tweeting about were Richard Land,
Mm-hmm.
and I think those were the most incendiary statements in the entire conference.
Yeah, land is.
Yeah, well, he and Norman Geisler.
Yeah, and I've had dealings with him.
Southern Evangelical Seminary.
Yeah.
And although Geisler is not involved, Richard Land is still the president. So he gives a talk every year at the conference.
Yeah.
And the other one that I remember tweeting about was Richard Howe, because he was the one who was talking about the problem of evil and why evil exists. And I still have my notes somewhere, but I don't have them in front of me, and they're probably down on my dining room table. But I remember him talking about natural evil versus moral evil, and in his presentation, he differentiated between the two and attempted to show why theodicy really isn't a problem. He failed naturally.
Yeah.
But that's what he was attempting to do. That's one area of apologetics that I want to take a look at.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, you're fading in and out a little bit there, Dave, too, sometimes.
I was doing that on AOA the last time too.
Yeah. It was fine to begin with. It's okay right now, I think, but
yeah,
we'll just have to watch it.
If it gets real bad, let me know, and I'll kick myself out and bring myself back in.
No problem. It just sounds like you're talking behind your hand or something at times. He's giving us funny hand gestures and we can't see it.
Yes, I seem.
My hand is somewhere else.
Of course.
Yeah, okay.
On your mouse, right?
Well, actually, right now it's on my wine glass.
Good.
I don't do the pinky thing either. I grip the motherfucker. I like wine, but I grip the motherfucker.
That's for tea, Dave. When you use your pinky, that's for tea.
I don't even drink tea.
Well,
except for good old Southern sweet tea.
Yes. I drink regular tea, but I drink it in a mug that's like, huge. Because teacups are for, a couple of sips. That's it. I had to get used to that. I think I told you guys I was married to an American for a while, a Southern boy, and I had to get used to the whole sweet tea thing. It used to drive him crazy because you go anywhere here and you ask for tea and you're getting orange pico. So, and people kind of like, sweet tea? What's that?
Yeah.
That's the thing. My Southern supremacy is going to come out here.
It's okay.
If you go into a restaurant and you ask for tea, you're supposed to get sweet tea with a lemon and about half a glass to 3/4 of a glass of ice. That's what you're supposed to get. That's what tea is.
Okay, Dave.
But if you go in and if you want something other than that, then you need to go in and you need to say, I need hot tea or I need northern tea.
Yeah.
But if you're going in and you're just ordering tea, you're supposed to get sweet tea with a lemon in it.
I have been to the South enough now, Dave. I know when I cross the border, I ask for hot tea. It's okay. I spent my time in Georgia and Virginia. I'm good.
Yeah, I like to confuse you.
Pardon?
I didn't realize you had been down this way.
Oh, my ex was from Virginia, so it's been a year and a half now, well, almost 2 years since I was in Virginia and D.C. area in that February, I guess it was, which is like summer when I go down there. It's like, February? It's summer. Woo, I don't need a coat.
Virginia is the only communist country that the United States has free trade agreements with.
Oh, ouch.
Seriously, everything is illegal there. Everything.
It is. Like for instance, you what is it? You can't have oral sex in Virginia.
Well, you can't do that in North Carolina either.
Really?
Well, that law is still on our books.
Wow, that's crazy. And I don't think it's Virginia. I know there's a couple of states where you're not allowed to have sex toys, right?
I think North Carolina is one of them, but it would not surprise me if Virginia was too.
Boy, and then they have the ad, Virginia's for lovers. I'm like, really? No. What kind of lovers? Missionary only lovers, apparently.
You know what? That's kind of disturbing because then you think about Philadelphia, and it's the city of brotherly love.
Yeah. I don't think that's what they had in mind.
Yeah, that puts a whole different spin on it.
It does indeed. No, some of my in-laws live in Georgia, so I've spent some time there as well. Well, many years ago, I did a trip to Florida, but that was when I was in high school, so that doesn't count much anymore. And Disney World was fucking boring as hell because I wasn't allowed to go anywhere.
Why?
Because I was 15 and everybody else was younger than me, and my parents refused. Well, it was my mother and her boyfriend at the time. They refused to take me anywhere that a 15-year-old might enjoy.
Like,
Yeah, because I was like, well, you're 15. You're not allowed to go by yourself. Forget it. You're in a foreign country. Because, America is so scary.
it can be.
Well, one of my main memories of that trip, because we drove in a converted camper van. And this would have been 1986, I think. And on the way home, we were driving. Well, it wasn't home, but we were driving back from Disney World, so we were driving through Orlando. And of course, being kids, we were looking out the back of the van. And we drove by somewhere, and I saw my first ever hookers on the street corner. So that was one of my main memories. Was hey, look, mom, hookers, because we're rednecks from the farm, so we never saw hookers before.
You are not going to believe this, but I have only saw my first hooker in person about 5 years ago.
Damn.
I'm serious.
Wow.
I guess I just don't go into those areas.
Oh, my last job was in the downtown area, and more than usually, I used to work the afternoon shift, and at one point near my work, I had to cross the street, so I had to wait for traffic because it was on the main street of town, and of course there were usually at least 2 or 3 ladies on the corner that would give me dirty looks because I was stopping. I'm like, no, I'm done work for the night, girls. It's okay. I'm leaving. So yeah, I've seen lots. In fact, a coworker stopped outside the building one day, and this was like, supper time, daylight, and she was waiting for some colleagues to come out, and some guy came up to her and said, if you smile, I'll hire you.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, she was kind of mortified.
Well, I know. Growing up in Buffalo, we had Chippewa Street, and I remember. I mean, this was in the '70s, and my dad used to work downtown Buffalo, so it was like we always used to drive by Chippewa Street, and my mom always used to make a comment, and I'm like, so where did I end up when I was, in college? Because that's where all the gay bars were on Chippewa Street. It's like, yeah, okay, and now it's nothing. I mean, it's not the red light district anymore. I think it moved, but I've been out of Buffalo for 15 years, so I don't know where it is anymore.
Oh man.
Excuse me, the last time I was in Buffalo, I ate wings at Anchor Bar.
Where'd you go?
Anchor Bar.
Oh, I used to work there.
You're
Home of the
kidding.
chicken wing. Yeah.
I dated a girl for a while whose aunt was in the kitchen that night and helped make that first batch.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's oh shoot. Yeah, I worked there in 86, 87-ish. Yeah. It's home of the chicken wings. That's where the concept was supposedly invented. But yeah. It's a pretty cool story. Pretty cool bar. Duck is.
It is.
But yeah, which I find comical because I work in food service. I have pretty much my entire life, and it's just funny moving to different areas of the country. Like I lived in Texas for a while, Boston, Detroit, and it's just really funny with the chicken wings because it's just like nobody makes them like they do in Buffalo. And then like I just was reading a story. I mean, it's old news, but when Buffalo Wing, the restaurant, went into Buffalo, in the Buffalo area, there was, I guess, a big brouhaha because they used, like, even down where I live in PA, and I'm only 3 hours away from my hometown, and people call them buffalo wings, and it's like, they're not buffalo wings. They're just chicken wings, people. But,
that's just a way of honoring the
yeah.
geography where they're created. Believe it or not, there was one place down here in Charlotte, or actually in Matthews, where I grew up, buffalo wings better than Anchor bars. Unfortunately, they're not in business anymore, but they use basically the same recipe. The owner was from Buffalo, and he was friends with the owners of Anchor Bar.
Yeah.
And he used basically the same recipe, but he increased the amount of butter.
Yeah. Well, that's how you control. Basically, it's just Frank's hot sauce and butter, and how much butter you put in controls how hot they are.
See,
But,
I always thought it had something to do with bison, but you know.
but for anybody that does go to Buffalo, if you want a really good wing, Duff's has really perfected it over the years. They're in Amherst by the Boulevard, not too far from the Boulevard Mall, and that's actually where I used to go for wings all the time.
Well, we're talking about chicken wings and food and everything else. To me, it brings up the concept of hedonism.
Yes.
Of course, we got into the hookers, and
Yeah.
when we were talking about that, I was just thinking about the book of Ezekiel.
Yes, yes.
You know the passage. I can't remember what it is.
I believe it's 23:20, isn't it?
I really can't recall.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Well, didn't you know all of us atheists are hedonists? I mean, we're gluttons. It's like,
Here's a question that I asked recently. Is it possible to have hedonism in moderation?
In what, sorry?
in moderation.
I don't see why not.
But if hedonism, and gluttons, how can gluttony be in moderation?
If you do it in a binge once in a while.
But that's not gluttony.
Yeah.
True.
It's just binging.
Yeah.
True.
I'll have to ponder that one.
Yeah, that's a deep one. Wow, Dave's making us think.
Well, at least it's not 4 a.m.
Yeah, this is true.
I know why she said that.
So do I.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to invoke my hedonism. I've got to walk into the kitchen and I can't carry the phone in the wine glass and pour a glass of wine. I'm going to mute myself for just a couple of seconds and then I'll be right back.
All right.
Well, there was something that Dave had mentioned when he was talking about the assisted suicide, and it just happened. We were talking about it earlier today with the woman that has the brain tumor.
Yes.
And I found it. Oops, I hit the wrong damn link. Hold on. For those that don't know this woman, she's 29-ish. She's very young, actually. And she has a terminal brain tumor, and for those of you that have never had to deal with a loved one who has brain tumor, it is one of the most horrid experiences to witness. So for her choosing to choose her time of her death before she gets to the point where she's just basically a puddle of flesh, because that's basically what will happen, choosing her time of death, she moved from California to, I believe it was Oregon, because they have the assisted suicide law up there. So, people have been bantering back and forth. Well, one of my old, followings, Johnny Erickson Johnny Erickson, but now she's married, so it's Johnny Erickson Tata. Back in I think it was 1978, became a quadriplegic after a diving accident, and she's a big-time fundy Christian evangelical. And she wrote a piece pleading with this woman not to take her life. I'm trying to pull it up. My computer's acting slow here. Come back here. And, the title of the article, and it's on Barbed Wire, Matt Barber's website. And of course it's taking forever to load. But she wrote a plea to, basically for her not to take her own life.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not loading. There was a line in there that I wanted to read. But it basically came down, she was saying, no, trust in Christ and yada, 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 and you'll be fine. And I'm thinking to myself, who I recently have had, in the past 3 years, have had 2 friends die of brain tumors. I have a friend right now that has a brain tumor. And yes, there seems to be a cluster where I live of brain tumors. Okay, here we go. Where'd she go? She goes, but if I could park my wheelchair beside her, I would tell her how the love of Jesus has sustained me through my chronic pain, quadriplegia, and cancer. I don't want her to wake up on the other side of her tombstone only to face a dark, grim existence without life and joy. That is, without God.
Right.
And I'm thinking...
There was nothing in there that demonstrated the love of Christ, whatever it is she's talking about. That was pure selfishness.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I have actually gone, when I was still a believer, I mean, Johnny Erickson was like fucking God to me, okay? I mean, I looked up to this woman because I was undiagnosed as bipolar, back then, and so it's just like I had issues, and I always thought, oh, she was such a strong woman, and, she's dealt with her quadriplegia, and it's just like, over the years, as I've deconverted, and even now, it's like I think I read this yesterday or the day before, I about put my fist through my computer screen. I mean, that's how pissed off it made. I mean, it really. I'm thinking, like you said, there is no love of Christ in that statement whatsoever.
Yeah, that's just, hey, my God thinks that you should suffer, and actually that kind of goes back to that, like, Mother Teresa kind of bullshit that suffering is holy, and if God wants you to suffer, there's a good reason for it, and all that bullshit. Yeah. I'm like, no, if your God wants people to suffer, then fuck your God.
Yeah. Well, then she goes on. She goes, there's only one person, capitalized P, who has transformed the landscape of life after death, and that is Jesus, the one who conquered the grave, opening the path to life eternal. 3 grams of phenobarbital in the veins will only provide a temporary reprieve. It is not the answer for the most important passage of her life. I'm sorry, but hello, after what I witnessed with my 2 friends, going through the final end stages of brain cancer, I told my best friend who has a brain tumor, but hers is non-malignant. I said to her, if I ever get to that point, if something like that, I said, I don't care. Figure out a way, put a bullet through my brain. I do not want to go through that. I mean, and to me, for Johnny Erickson to make a statement like that is just atrocious.
Well, and as we were talking earlier, it's like, okay, she's a quadriplegic and she's happy and fulfilled and whatever. She's not the girl with the brain tumor.
Yeah. I mean, she has nothing to compare it to.
No.
I can't say she hasn't had friends that have had it, but to me, it's just like, how dare you judge this person for exerting her free will that you all say we have?
Yeah.
Now, in some fundies' defense, there are quite a few, I've been kind of following the story, that have supported her decision and have not attacked her, and it's crazy. It's just that just kind of popped. I mean, obviously I was thinking about it earlier today, but when Dave said that about the problem evil and stuff, that came into my head. And then later today, just not too long, I think it was like actually while we were talking earlier, another article popped up, and I haven't read it yet, but one thing that just popped out as I was skimming it goes, and I think this is coming from an atheistic perspective, but don't quote me on that. I'll post them But it says, thank you for using the little time that you have remaining to bring attention to the Death with Dignity debate, which, that's the whole euthanasia. I can only imagine the kind of physical, mental, and emotional stress that you are currently experiencing. My imagination is not the same, nor could it even be close to the real thing when I read about your story yesterday. And it goes on. It just... That's what I ponder.
Yeah. It just the gall for somebody to impose not only their views but their religious crap on somebody, and I think it comes out of this idea that, well, because I'm a Christian I have to try and save fucking everybody, and
Yeah.
oh, it's my duty to tell this person that they're totally wrong and whatever, when I have no idea what their life is like.
Well, and that's the thing. It's not even so much their views; it's their religion.
Yes.
And that's where, I mean, this even goes back to the whole Terry Schiavo case down in Florida a couple years
Mhm.
ago. And more recently with the Jahai McGrath case out of California, the young girl that had the heart attack after a not-so-simple tonsillectomy.
Right.
And all that, I mean, why should Terry Schiavo's family, the organization they started, actually got involved in that case, with the Jahai's case. And I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but if I'm that far gone, let me go.
I actually have, excuse me, I actually have an end-of-life directive and a live-in
So do
will.
I. Yeah, I have to.
Mhm.
If I cannot do for myself,
Yes.
and it is necessary for me to have medical implementation to sustain me, not to assist me, but to sustain me,
Yeah, to keep you alive.
to keep me alive.
Yeah.
That pull the plug.
Yeah. And
I'm gonna say something here. Beth was talking about having people with brain tumors. I had an uncle who died from a brain tumor.
Mhm.
I want to say 8 or 9 years, and I was in the room with him when he went.
yeah.
So there were lots of friends there, but yes, it was horrible, and it was one of those things. Diagnosed with it, they gave him, I think, I want to say, they gave him 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But they did actually open his skull and put in brain wafers.
What on earth is that?
It's a kind of a chemotherapy delivery system where they
Mhm.
insert these small wafers into the brain tissue around it in the hopes that it will eventually cut off blood flow or irradiate the tumor so that it goes away.
Yeah.
Because if the problem is that if you get a brain tumor, your chances of survival are next to nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So euthanasia should be on the table for everyone.
Absolutely.
I mean, we do it for pets.
That's what I don't understand.
Why can't we do it? Why can't we do it for? Why can't we do it for the family and the friends that we love the most? And I have another confession.
Mhm.
Parents at Woman knows how much I hate cats.
Yes.
Well, I have 2. Well, I had 2 until last night.
Oh.
Aw.
I'm not going to go into details about how I have these cats or why I have these cats or anything else. That's not important. But the one, her name was Hala. I didn't really like her, but I'm certainly not going to just try and adopt her out to anyone, and I'm certainly not going to send her to the pound.
Right.
She lived her life. She was somewhere a little over 20 years old.
Holy crap. That's amazing.
Well, the other one is like 17.
Wow.
Wow.
Once the other one goes, the other one's name is Joy. Once she goes, I'm done with pets.
Right.
Not of any kind. I don't care if it's in a fucking cage or a terrarium or a tank or if it's a ground dweller. No more pets. But I'm not going to just give them up, you know?
Right.
Because they don't deserve that.
Yeah.
But last night, Holland went through a very, very bad episode, and she's been on the downslope for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
Just within the last 4 to 5 weeks. It's like she fell off a cliff.
Yeah. When it happens, it's quickly.
Yeah, and last night, well, last night she was throwing up a lot. She collapsed on top of a plastic bag and got herself wedged in it and couldn't even assist me to help her get her out of it.
Oh. And
also suddenly became incontinent.
That's the time. Yeah.
So last night, 12:30, I put her in the carrier, put her in the car, went up to the hospital, the 24-hour animal hospital, and put her down. You know, I had no choice at that point.
Yeah.
But what they do is they give an extreme overdose of anesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it just slowly helps. Well, I say slowly. It actually quickly helps to relax all the muscles, to just make the pet tired and go to sleep permanently. There's not any pain in there. And there is certainly no controversy surrounding having to put a pet down.
No,
right.
Not at all.
Do that for humans.
And I've never understood that.
We determine when the end of life for our pets are, but we make that decision. On the flip side, we try to force humans to hold on to their lives until natural death. That's completely unfair. And it's especially unfair considering that we are also animals.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And even worse, because we have a higher capacity to understand what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, it's just...
That's a good point.
Yeah, because, I mean, an animal, they have feelings, they have, you know, they are sentient, but they don't have the rationale that we have. I mean, they just want the hurt to stop, and we can help them with the hurt to stop. But we have a concept of, you know, self, more like a higher self, and we can reason, and we realize that once we take that final sleep, that's it. You know, well, unless you're believe in afterlife and all of that, but we have that higher ability to understand, you know, and to make that choice that I'm going to have to deal with all of this pain and suffering and, you know, loss of function and all of that. The cat just thinks, you know, it hurts and I can't get up. You know, but we have this greater understanding of what's happening and what's going to happen, and to make one of us have to go through that for no better reason than it makes someone else feel better is reprehensible. Yeah. Because that's all that woman, the Christian lady, is doing. She feels compelled to try and, quote, save this other woman to make herself feel better, to make her feel like, hey, Jesus, I've done my job, and kiss Jesus's ass a little more, because that's what she's supposed to do, with absolutely no consideration for what that poor woman might have to go through if she listened to her and decided to stick it out through this.
And not even just her, but her husband.
Oh, I didn't realize she was... Yeah, that's even worse.
Yeah, she just literally got. Either she's getting married in the next couple of weeks before, I think, like, and then a week after the marriage is, if I remember the timeline. I had to close out the
Right.
article, but and I'm pretty sure she just didn't say, "Hey, hubby, I'm gonna kill myself, euthanize myself on November 1st." I don't remember if that's the date or not, so I'm just throwing that out there willy nilly.
Right.
It's like, coming from, like you said, it's just like, I've done my piece for Jesus, and that's what it comes down to. And I'm not putting down Johnny Erickson and the pain that she's gone through. I mean, I know her story. I know what she went through to accept the fact that she was a paraplegic and yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
But even still, for any person, especially outside the family, to
Yes.
like judge this woman and say, "Oh, well, just believe in Jesus and it'll all be better." No.
No. And they also don't take into consideration that everybody has a different level of what they can deal with. And
Yeah.
and that euphemism you always hear, well, God only gives you what you can handle. I hate that.
I should be
I
the
just
world's strongest person then.
yeah,
Plain and
exactly.
simple.
Anytime I hear somebody say that, I just want to smack them upside the head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you have no idea what anybody else is capable of handling, and sometimes people themselves don't understand what they can handle. And there are people that might think I'm I can handle all kinds of stuff, and when they get in it, they realize, you know what, fuck this, I don't want to handle this. I need to do something else. And then there are people that think that I can't, and they are presented with it, and they can. And
Yeah.
I don't think even for your own self that you can necessarily make that determination, let alone somebody else. And to
Well,
think that
and the thing is, and I'm speaking from experience here, regretfully, you never really do know what you can handle until you are forced to handle it. And
that's right.
I mean, being that I'm bipolar, I have attempted suicide on 5 different occasions. My last one, I came very damn close. But now I'm much stronger now than I was before, and it's like, you don't know. So for like, even like we were talking about Robin Williams earlier
Yes.
today,
Yes.
and and now the actress they think that may have, they're not 100% sure, that was found in the woods in Oregon. We don't know what other people are going through, so we don't have the right to judge.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I have a problem with, primarily with Christianity. I don't know Islam well enough to make that call, but it seems like they're always judging
Yes.
everybody's actions, and it's just like, the hypocrisy I see is like, okay, you're judging me, but yet you're going to, I'm just going to throw this out willy-nilly, you're going to a church that has a preacher that has AIDS who is fucking his parishioners?
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, with that propensity for judgment, we are created in the image of God.
Yeah, well, oh, I never even thought of that, Dave. Oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Genesis 1:27.
Yep.
I never thought of it from that angle. Ooh, I'm going to have to think about that one. I feel a blog post coming on.
uh,
If you'll permit me, we were talking about euthanasia, and I had posted something about euthanasia by automobile, and I'm not going to get into that because it's really useless. But I said that the alternative was a story about an apologist who thinks we should take the Bible literally, except when we shouldn't take it literally.
yes.
Okay.
And which this was something else that stemmed from one of the national conferences on Christian apologetics. But this one was in, let's see, this one was the one in 2012. And the particular apologist that I'm talking about, am I coming across okay? How's my sound?
Not bad. Not bad.
The particular apologist that I'm talking about is Henry Morris III.
Oh.
Beth knows the Henry Morrises.
Yes, I do.
Henry Morris the first, Henry Morris Sr., was one of the two authors of the book called The Genesis Flood.
Yes, that's who I'm more familiar with.
This book was written, what was it, in the mid to late 60s?
67, if I remember correctly. I'd have to dig my copy out, but it's buried.
Right. But they wildly misquoted scientists in this book, including Carl Sagan, of all people.
Yeah.
So Henry Morris III, who's the grandson of this author, was one of the presenters at the 2012 National Conference on Christian Apologetics. And I sat in on his lecture. His lecture was about biblical literalism. And basically what he said, in a nutshell, was we need to take the Bible literally, except when we shouldn't take it literally. That was the thrust of his lecture. So what I did, there was always a Q&A session after these lectures. And at the end of the Q&A, during the Q&A session, I actually had a chance to walk up and talk with him. There are several people who have heard this story before, but I'm repeating it here because honestly, I like the story. So I'm standing up there with him, and we're talking about biblical literalism. I asked him, if we as Christians, going incognito here, if we as Christians are supposed to take the Bible literally, then how do we reconcile Jesus' birth with prophecies that seem to be mistaken in talking about Jesus, particularly Isaiah chapter 7. Excuse me, Isaiah chapter 7, where the prophet says, I will go to the virgin, and she will conceive and bear a child. You should call his name Emmanuel. But then in chapter 8, God changes the name. Well, first of all, the child is born during Isaiah's lifetime. And secondly, God changes his name, and he's not called Emmanuel. But this child was born 700 years before Jesus was born. So that prophecy cannot be used about Jesus. And Morris looked at me and he says, and this is an exact quote, well, God sees things in reverse time, and sometimes he needs to fulfill prophecy more than.
Say that last part again.
The whole quote is, well, God sees things in reverse time and must necessarily fulfill prophecies more than once.
Okay.
What?
How much stupid is in that statement?
Wow.
Reverse time? Oy.
Okay. You know,
Doesn't even understand his own Bible.
wow. I mean, when I was a Christian, we were just told, well, Emmanuel is just another name for Jesus. That's what they used to say.
Okay, then why was Jesus never called Emmanuel?
That's a good point, but I was, 12, so I didn't ask that question at the time. But yeah, that's.
I'm gonna bring up something here. You were 12, so you didn't ask the question. That's precisely it. Because the grown-ups hide the shit that they don't want you to know.
That's exactly right.
Both of you are very aware of the whole Sneedle project that I'm working on. I give a shout out to Connie Walker here. She is an awesome illustrator. Sneedle has changed his profile picture on Facebook to one of the images that she came up with. I mean, she is just absolutely so incredible, and I'm actually having to rethink how I'm doing this book because her illustrations are so good. But the reason that I bring up the idea of Sneedle, the idea of doing these children's books, is because the grown-ups cover the bad shit up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, in preparing to do this project, I actually went and purchased a book called My First Study Bible.
Mhm.
I posted a couple of pictures from it on Facebook, but 2 nights ago I went looking because Elijah is mentioned in this My First Study Bible.
Oh,
But I wanted to see if there was any mention of those damn bears.
the She-Bears, my favorite story. I love that story. Jealous
And
God.
wouldn't you know it, in the 3 places that Elijah is mentioned, all throughout these books in 2 Kings, there is no mention of the bears at all.
Funny
Aw.
that.
They left out jealousy and being a bully.
That's the best story about Elijah, and they left it out.
Yeah.
Because it shows God is a jackass. And actually, going back to that Sparrow guy and talking about, the kids, his stupidity in what he was presenting, and then, looking right at the kids and like, Jesus did this and that. But at the end, he kept saying over and over again to the adults, we must evolution-proof our children.
Yeah.
And that
And
was
it-
like his catchphrase.
Evolution proof.
Yeah.
And that's it. Go ahead, Dick.
They're talking about logic proofing, not evolution proofing.
Oh, absolutely. But that's just the vehicle that he chose to use for it.
And that's why I think the book that you're doing, Dave, is so damn important.
Absolutely.
I mean, even if you're, quote, speaking to the choir, so to speak, but I deal with a lot of young kids in my job. And in town, I'm not afraid to talk to the kids like most of the senior citizens in this place. And there are a lot of them that are questioning, but they only have the dogma and the doctrine that they've been indoctrinated with since they were
They
kids.
don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why slowly being a little bit more vocal as far as where I live, I don't have a problem because I mean I have set some boundaries knowing some of their parents, but when you hit 17, 18, all bets are off. I mean, I'm going to pull out the best I can to make them think. And I think with the younger generation, with the 16, 17, 18-year-olds, they're not stupid at all. They know what's going on and they see it. I mean, people are like, oh, they're clueless, and I know coming from the right, their big thing is that they're calling them the lost crowd because they're taking reason over dogma, and it's like, no, they're not lost. They see what's going on. They're not stupid, and that's why I think with your book, hitting it at a younger age, we can push that down even further.
Well,
We have 13, 14-year-olds and questioning.
here's the thing that drives me. If you walk into the kitchen to get a drink of something,
Mm-hmm.
and the only thing available is the Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
Kool-Aid.
Yep.
Yeah.
There need to be more options.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and that's partly how I got suckered into that Calvinistic sect I was part of. We were bumpkins, single parent family. We didn't have any money. We didn't do anything fun. And we're out in the sticks, so it's not like there was much fun to do anyway. And they came along and said, well, hey, if you come to our church every week, we'll take you to Toronto, and we'll take you camping, and we'll take you here. And for the younger kids, they had a point system where if you memorize Bible verses or I forget what other shit they did, but of course the biggest thing was if you bring a friend, we'll give you all kinds of points. and then they would buy a bunch of toys from the dollar store, and they could turn in their points for toys. And that's
Right.
how they suckered in the small kids, because what kid doesn't want a free toy from church? And if it means, oh well, if I bring a friend, I get to have my toy faster, because they would trot out the same toys like on a table every week, so you could see that one toy that you really wanted. And if another kid was interested in that toy, well, you better figure out a way to get more points faster, or you're not going to get the toy. And that's how they suckered you in.
Jesus Christ, that is sociopathic.
It
Yeah.
is. It absolutely is. And it worked on me because, like I said, at the time I was 13 when I started going. And like I said, we didn't have money for vacations or things like that. And that's what they said. Well, if you come, they had a weeknight. They called it Kids
Mhm.
Club. And it was
Yep.
like Sunday school, but during the week. And well, if you come to Kids Club every week, and this was in like the fall, I think, or early winter. So if you come every week until summer, then you'll get to come away camping with us. And during that winter, they took us to Toronto, and I told Dave, back then going to Toronto was like going to another fucking country, because we were from the sticks, and that was huge. And so I went, and I had always been somewhat religious, because more so because I thought it was a way to be a good person.
Yeah.
And the church that the family belonged to is the United Church of Canada. It's one of the most liberal churches in the country, if not the most liberal. Very easy to get along with, and I never had much of a problem with it when I was there. But these people suckered me into going to their Calvinistic gig, and Bible study was, we're going to read a verse, and they would say, well, what do you think that means? And there would be like 6 or 8 of us teenagers, like we're all like 13, 14, and we'd say, oh, it means this or that. Well, no, it means this, and this is what you have to believe. And after going weeks and weeks in a row, I started believing this shit.
Yeah. Well,
And
and that's where the indoctrination comes in, and I'm sitting here flashing back. A couple of weeks ago on one of Cash's shows, he had us call in with our confessions,
yes.
and one of my confessions was, if you're familiar with the whole Jesus Camp movement, not
Hmm.
specifically the movie Jesus Camp or that situation, it there was a situation in Tennessee with the Rosa Sharon camp, which is very similar, but more charismatic. And I'm like, oh my fucking god, you know, I did that. I was one of the quote teachers, one of the leaders. And what you're describing, like what you went through, is there is a Christian organization. It's called Pioneer Girls Club, and basically it's a Christian version of the Girl Scouts. And all the treats and knickknacks and rewards, where we'd go here, we'd go there, we got points for, it's just like you basically
Hmm.
outlined everything. It was just like, I was sitting here thinking,
Yeah.
and that's what they do, and that's why, like, I mean, and I think where Dave's book might come in handy, and is like, I'm pretty sure those of us, that have been in the community while know about Camp Quest, which is the secular version.
By the way, I got a chance to meet Amy Monsky uh, just a couple of weeks ago at the Carolina Secular Conference. She's one of the
Uh,
chiefs. She's one of the chiefs of Camp Quest.
ah, interesting.
And and she and I had the chance to sit down and just chat a little bit about Camp Quest, and she had some interest in this whole project that I've got going on too. And it was a really productive. It was a brief but very productive conversation, and I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
And it goes back to this whole let's get them younger, because what people don't realize, and I know I've spouted this before, is that this dumbing down, so to speak, of our children, and I don't have kids, but I have a lot of nieces and nephews, is a well thought out plan. I mean, and it's coming out of the whole Texas textbook controversy that's still ongoing. And they do not want critical thinking, rational thinking, reason, and logic in our schools. And this is why. Because with reason and logic, you cannot indoctrinate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the the whole Texas textbook thing ties into that. And it all ties into the Dominionist movement and the theocracy and Ted Cruz and his craziness and stuff like that. And people don't realize that that's why your book, Dave, and I'm plugging that, but there are, I don't know, are there any other books like yours coming out or out?
There are a lot of books that are geared toward kids,
Mm-hmm.
particularly young kids.
Mm-hmm.
About they're specifically about science and reason, critical thinking, or on the flip side, they're about the Bible. But there is no book out there that I have found that tries to apply critical thinking to religious texts.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
I was going to say, I remember when I was going through all of this crap, every once in a while something would come along and I'd be like, what? How does that work? That doesn't make sense. And they would come up with some bullshit excuse like well, Emmanuel is just another name for Jesus and something like that. And I didn't have the wherewithal to think, oh, well, okay, I should kind of, where's your proof of that? It was, oh, well, you're an adult, so I guess I have to believe you.
Yeah.
Argument from authority, and you
Yes.
And here's the thing, and this is what indoctrination banks on, is the fact that very young children, infants and toddlers, implicitly trust the grown-ups because the grown-ups that are around them are the ones who are taking care of them, and they feed them.
Yes.
They keep them warm, and they keep them clean, and everything else. So they naturally get this ability, or they naturally get this concept that they trust the people who are bigger than they are.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
what indoctrination feeds on is the idea that you do not, the young children do not have an identity apart from the big people who are taking care of them.
Yeah.
So if these kids can be encouraged to use their minds and to think creatively and to think non-traditionally, then progress could be made on the logic front. I don't know if either of the two of you saw the picture that I posted yesterday about the 6 parking lot spaces.
I did see that.
I looked at it, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, okay, these numbers make absolutely no sense to me in pattern. And then I suddenly realized, wait a minute, if I was driving a car looking at these numbers from the angle that I'm looking at them in this picture, I would be looking at them from the flip version. And as soon as I flipped it, I suddenly understood it. Holy shit, it makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's what kids need to be encouraged to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it actually, I think about it now, I've always sucked at math. It's always been a challenge. And I remember being in grade 9 math, and we were learning formulas to determine plot points on a graph. I don't know what the proper term for that is. And, we did the formula to determine X and the formula to determine Y and all of that. And then we did, well, okay, now we know what the point is, but now we're going to reverse mathematically engineer it. And I remember asking, why are we doing that? And no, if no one could answer me, it's just, well, that's just because we are. And I'm like, well, why? Like, someone make it make sense. Because if I had that, if it was, well, this is how we're going to make it, tie it into critical thinking, this is to help your brain do those types of mathematics, I might have understood that a little bit. But I just remember thinking, this is useless. Why am I doing this? And we don't give that kind of well, hey, it's cool to examine things from all the different angles and look at it differently and ask different questions all the time. It's just like, here it is, regurgitate it, and off you go.
I need to take about 2 minutes. I'm coming right back, but I have something that will parallel that. I'm actually a Microsoft certified systems engineer.
Aha.
I go all the way back to Windows NT 4.0. That's when I first got my MCSE.
Oh, wow.
I have something that's going to parallel with what you were just saying.
Okay.
I'm going to take 2 minutes, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay. And we have actually gone over the hour and a half, but I'm okay with that, and it's kind of tradition anyway.
Well, I'm down to oh, wait a minute, 6 cigarettes, so we got some time.
Okay, got some time. All right, all right.
I can babble up a storm.
That's all right. And we still have some folks watching, so to everybody out there who's watching, hi, and thank you for sticking around with us. I hope you're finding us at least marginally entertaining. I know we're having fun, so that's great. And I'm anxious to see what Dave has for us.
Yeah. Just a real quick one, and we can hold this thought after it gets back. Dave mentioned Carl Sagan, and oh God, it's been 2 years actually. Somebody I know, I don't remember the whole background story, tried to use a quote from Carl Sagan, which goes, "My parents were not scientists. They knew almost nothing about science. But in introducing me to simultaneously to skepticism and to wonder, they taught me the two uneasily cohabitating models of thought that are central to the scientific method." And that's the thing. I mean, people will take Carl Sagan and they will twist and twist. Was he a believer? Was he an atheist? And that's the thing. If you look at the world with wonder, like he did, like he was taught, even though his parents weren't, and I think that it ties in with what Dave's trying to do with his book, and I think and getting kids younger and younger to think critically. So.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just not something that's done. It's just, you're a child, you listen to me, and that's it. And I think it's a disservice to kids in the long. I mean, there's a point where as a parent in day-to-day living, you kind of have to do that because the kid's never going to listen to you. But in an academic setting, we just do a disservice to say, here's the stuff, learn it, don't bother wondering why we're learning it, just learn it.
Well, this is actually from Demon Haunted World. It goes, and this is from Carl Sagan, he goes, "I worry that, especially as the millennium edges nearer, pseudoscience and superstition will seem year by year more tempting. The siren song of unreason more sonorous and attractive. Where have we heard that before? Whenever our ethnic or national prejudices are aroused in times of scarcity, during challenges to national self-esteem or nerve, we agonize about our diminished cosmic place and purpose. Or when fanaticism is bubbling up around us, then habits of thought familiar from ages past reach for the controls. The candle flames. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading. The candle flames gutters, its little pool of light trembles, darkness gathers, the demons begin to stir. And that's basically what's happening now, what we're seeing, and is that, people are reaching back to 2,000-year-old text to live their lives. And then they're passing it on to their children and their grandchildren and anybody they can grab a hold of.
And I always wonder why no one clues into the geographic nature of it. Like they say, well, we're Christian because we're right. You're Christian because of everybody else where you grew up is Christian.
Well, there was a Facebook meme going around. It was a world map, and on the world map there was this little red circle, and in that circle they said this is where everything in the Bible took place. Of course, the Middle East.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing else other than just that one little spot in the Middle East where everything in the Bible took place.
Mhm.
So
I've seen,
Yeah.
I've seen that meme before.
yeah. So
It took me a little longer than 2 minutes.
That's okay.
I had a squirrel trying to get in the house.
Oh, fabulous.
We were talking about, and excuse me, there's something that I want to go back to in just a moment. But we were talking about rote memorization or something like that, creative thinking.
Yes.
I mentioned that I was an MCSE. One of the things that limits people is thinking about patterns or thinking about equations and formulas. Now, there is a time and a place for that. I mean, if you're trying to solve a trigonometry problem, you have to know the formulas. You have to abide by the processes. But if you just have a kind of a general idea that there is a problem that needs solving, then it's better to think about it creatively. And the reason that I mentioned my MCSE is because one of the things that Microsoft teaches is excuse me, is the process of determining where the point of communication failure is. And to do that, you have to go, if your computer is having trouble communicating with a remote website, then what Microsoft teaches is that you need to start with your computer first. You need to do a ping to 127.0.0.1. Then you need to do a ping to your switch and to your router, to your perimeter, and eventually going to the remote website. But there's a series of, if I recall correctly, it's a series of 7 steps. So my instructor for this read this passage from the Microsoft manual when he was teaching us about this. And he looked up at us and he paused and he says, "That's bullshit. Cross it out of your book." He says, the way that you can determine the point of failure faster is by pinging the destination first and working backward, because you're going to find your point of failure faster.
Right.
And the point of failure will never be at 127.0.0.1. So why that's even included as a step is ridiculous.
That makes perfect sense.
But that's the point. You have to have creative ways of thinking about it. You have to think, well, wait a minute, if this is true and this is true, then this must be true, and this other thing must be false. And that's just simply Bayesianism.
Yeah.
Encompassing all of the knowledge in order to be able to arrive at a rational conclusion.
Yeah.
There's that knowledge word again.
Well, and I think, if my stupid math teacher had given me a reasonable answer as to why we were doing this, I could have, because the minute he said, well, we're doing it because we're doing it, my mind shut off. I was mentally out of there. That was it. Like, oh, well, we have no reason to do this. I'm not paying attention. Screw you. And, I think I barely passed that class. But, yeah.
In college, I had a professor who said basically the same thing, but he truncated it. His statement was, don't worry about why, just do it.
But
yeah, I had a few professors like that, primarily my apologetics professor.
When you're talking about zeros and ones, when you're talking about binary options, he was absolutely correct. But that doesn't speak to me, which is why I was so bad at that. In high school, the highest level math class I took was consumer math. Interest rates and shit.
Well, see, that class was grade 9 math, and in those days we only had to have one math credit in high school. So I think I got like I don't know, 57 or something, and I was like, woo, it's over, and I never took another math class again. And that would have been like in, 1986. Oh, that's not true. Last year when I went back to college, I took basic accounting, and I got a B+. So there.
I took accounting and got a D.
Oh. I don't know how I was this close to getting an A, and I don't know how I got a mark like that, but I got through it. It was good.
Math was my strong suit, so I'll shut up.
Thank you, Beth.
Well, as I've remarked time and time again, we all have different tools in our toolbox.
Yes, and I think that's an important point right there, is that we all do. I mean, we each, Dave has his thing that he's real good at. Heretic, you have things that you're good at. Those in our various groups that we're all members of. We all have different tools to push out there and bring to light different aspects, and I think people have to remember that. And I think that's why, as a community, we have to push that each of us has something that we're good at.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a history nerd. I could talk to you about the Tudor period until your ears bleed.
Oh, ouch. I never liked that period of
Okay, we won't have that discussion.
But
in defense of being a history nerd, was researching the ancient Middle East, pre-Yahvism. If you know the term Yahvism, you understand that Yahvism is pre-Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at different geographic sites like Göbekli Tepe.
Ah, one of my favorites.
And several other things. And the one thing that I didn't know that I thought was very interesting is that grain processing. We have evidence of grain processing going back 20,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, yep. Bishop of Usher, fuck you.
Yeah, 4,000 October 10th, 4004 BC just doesn't work for me either.
No, it was October 21st.
Oh, 21st. Okay, I knew it was in October.
Oh, it's in about 45 minutes.
Yeah, the anniversary of that is tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh shit! Oh cool. How weird. Synchronicity. Oh no.
It was God.
Well, I will say that that Usher represented the best philosophical thinking of his time.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't necessarily dismiss his rationale.
Right. Oh yeah.
But I can dismiss his conclusions because other evidence has come after Usher lived.
Yeah. Well, I look at it too is that.
Well, that's the whole thing about science. It builds previous knowledge. It forms hypotheses. It tests them.
Yeah.
And then it arrives at a reasonable conclusion.
Yep.
And with more information come more reasonable conclusions. Usher's conclusion that the world began in 4004 BC was perfectly reasonable for his time. But they didn't have that information that we have now.
Yeah.
And that people like Thomas Paine, the founding fathers of of the United States, but particularly Paine, he would have been an atheist if he was living today.
Yeah.
Because he had the information that he had at his time, and it was a reasonable conclusion to reach in the form of deism. But we've gone beyond that. We now have more information that is built on that previous knowledge. And given his penchant for trying to piss people off, he probably would have been an atheist just to do that, even if he didn't believe it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny that you bring up the whole science thing, and that goes back to what we started this whole mess off with, is the ham and knife debate. And Ken Ham standing up saying, I have this book.
Yeah.
Because he denies, and people like him deny science altogether.
Yep.
Well, and the quick story I'm going to tell here goes right back to Sparrow too, or as Heretic Woman and I have jokingly referred to him in private messages, Swallow.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, nice.
I actually have experience with one of Ken Ham's graduates. And I think Beth may have heard this story before. What happened was I was in a discussion with a couple of people of varying ages, and this girl was probably 18. And we were talking about the age of the Earth, the age of the dinosaurs, and of course it comes out, I say something about, well, dinosaurs lived from approximately 250 million years ago, or maybe to about 5 million years ago. And this girl looks at me and says, "How do you know? Were you there?"
Oh, God. Were you there? Shit.
I was prepared for it.
Oh.
Said, actually, yes, I was. And she got this strange look on her face. And she said, "That's impossible. You couldn't have been." And I said, "How do you know? Were you there?"
Oh, that's brilliant.
Oh, yes.
I'm actually...
Shut her ass up real quick.
I was surprised, being that Swallow there claimed to be friends with Ken Ham, that he never actually did the whole "were you there" shit. He didn't do that, which was surprising.
I think Ken Ham actually trademarked that.
Okay.
Are you
But
serious?
I'm not sure, because I remember an article came through, because I got into a discussion with, I don't remember who off the top of my head, and someone brought that up in a discussion, and then someone popped in, like, out of the blue and said, you can't use that line, Ken Ham has trademarked it, and I started researching it, but I don't know, but supposedly he has trademarked that line.
Fuck.
But as I said, I'm not I'd have to look into it more. But yeah, that's why. I mean, some people do use it, but they do attribute it to him. But as far, I mean, I've never heard anybody else in a public speaking like the gentleman you were talking about use it. And supposedly that's why. But as I said, I don't know if that's just rumor or if there's any truth behind it. But it wouldn't surprise me knowing Ken Ham.
Well, one of Swallow's other taglines was, if I can trust certain things in the Bible that I can test, then I can trust the things in the Bible that I can't test. And there's just so much wrong with that.
Well, it's funny you said that, because I was telling you about I'm working on a blog post, and it's talking about I forgot what it was about now. Oh, it was about the situation in Montana, Idaho, with the church that's not a church but says it's a church, and they shouldn't have to follow the laws of non-discrimination. And actually, Barroom Atheist got into a very lengthy discussion in the comments section, and I was like, oh wow, I know that person. And this
Bill Robbins.
Yes. Well, I don't like to use people's names without asking them first, but he got into this discussion, and this guy pulled up the copy and pasted from some website. I don't remember. I don't have the article up, so I'm doing this off the top of my head, saying, well, this and this proves that the Bible is scientific and yada, yada, yada. And Bill's like, no, it doesn't. And the guy kept saying, well, give me proof, give me proof. And it's like back and forth. I mean, it's just like, I don't know how Bill did it, because this went on for quite a few comment postings. And it was just like, holy shit, these people just are dense. And they refuse to accept science.
Yeah.
They refuse. I mean, it's just like Dave said, were you there? Well, were you?
Yeah.
And in a sense, through science, yes, we were there.
You're using the wrong word. You use the word dense.
Okay. What word should I?
Dense implies that there is some infiltration. The word you meant was impervious.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I will take that correction and keep it in mind.
They built a wall. They have built a wall.
It's just crazy.
It's like the cone of silence, if anyone's old enough to remember that.
The silence?
The cone of silence.
I'm not familiar with this.
It's from Get Smart.
I vaguely remember.
That's a show I never watched.
Really?
Really? I never watched it.
It was a big glass dome that would come over them, and apparently no one could hear what they were saying, or, yeah.
So they were like mimes.
Well,
Yeah.
they were spies. They were spies, so the cone of silence was protecting them from being heard. But they couldn't hear anything either.
Gotcha.
Yeah. YouTube it.
Inspector Gadget could have come up with a way around that.
Probably. Well, you realize that Don Adams played, I can't remember, Agent 87 and Inspector Gadget. Same guy.
Played Inspector Gadget?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah, same guy.
Wow.
I don't watch movies.
It's it's all TV. Get Smart was 70s TV.
Yeah, I remember that show, and I remember Inspector Gadget, but
Yeah,
I guess I fried one too many brain cells.
I think they did remake Get Smart, but I didn't watch it because I didn't think they were going to do a good job. So.
Yeah, they turned it into a movie.
Yeah, I thought they did.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of then.
That could be. Yeah. Anyway, well, guys, we're coming up on a half-hour overtime. Do we have more we want to talk to, or do we want to wrap things up, or where are we going?
I was getting ready to say that I've got a couple of things that I need to take care of away from this hangout. So
Okay.
I would have to eject myself regardless of what the decision of the two of you is.
Okay. Is there anything that you would like before you go?
No,
Plug yourself some more.
I think we've talked about the project enough.
Okay.
People can find Sneedle's page, facebook.com/SNETLE. They can find Facebook at facebook.com/Dave.Foda. That's F-O-D-A. They can find me on Twitter at Dave.
Yeah, you're fading in and out again there, Dave.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. So yeah, it just DAVE and then F as in Frank, O D as in Dave, A, and you can find him on Twitter and Facebook with that. You kept fading out with your name there. So yeah, if you haven't checked out Dave, do it.
Just don't do it at 4 in the morning.
Well, he'll be up.
Yeah, and so are you thinking about what he posts and writes and...
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, there is a story behind it, but maybe we'll hit it the next time.
Yeah. Dave is a bad influence on many levels, but that's okay.
Well,
Well,
I wouldn't say.
He can
Yeah.
get you into trouble, I guess. I don't know.
Thinking trouble.
Yes. All right, Dave. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We had a blast. And
thank you.
yeah, and we still have some folks watching. So again, thank you for hanging out with us. And I think Dave's going to go on his way. And Beth, is there anything you want to get in?
Well, most of you know that I keep a blog, and the last 2 weeks have been just the right side of the world has just been on a tear, and I I just it was the quote rant that I had just started writing. I don't know what I was doing with it, but I just thought, just for something to ponder in closing, is that, basically over the course of the past week, I've posted and written about, and this is what I write about on a daily basis: witches, jinn, which are the Muslim version of demons, hate, and discrimination. We have an atheist that just recently won $2 million, but on the other hand, we have a judge in Texas that feels the need to preach in court. The sovereign citizens are again blitzing the courts around the country, and the Reich, well, is the Reich. The ACA is still bad. Another government shutdown is looming. Us gays and lesbians seem to have a Sodom-like agenda. Yet it is Todd Buchanan calling for the U.S. to execute all Ebola patients, even though Rushbo has had more wives than we have had patients, although, as I was writing this, I guess we're up to 8 now. And speaking of killing people, you better add Peter LaBarbera to the list, although he can't seem to make up his mind who is the actual Nazi, the homosexual, or his little group of like-minded idiots. And for those of you, that's the reference to the movie In and Out with, I forgot who is in it now. I want to say Kevin Spacey, but that's not right. On our religious quackery front, we have not only is Bob Larson making the news again, and yes, he is like one of my favorite fall guys that I like to pick on, and he must be running out of money, but we have a wannabe on the rise named Sandra Williamson of God's ER, which stands for God's Emergency Restoration. She's another crackpot swindler who believes that being unforgiving, harboring bitterness, or dabbling in the occult opens people up to demons. Demons everywhere. Oh, and she believes in generational curses, even though the Bible says they're wrong. And then we have, let's see, Father Jonathan Morris. He's not quite sure about the whole baptism thing, for children with same-sex couple. Something to do about living in sin. And then, of course, down in Alabama, which I mentioned earlier, we have the AIDS preacher who is still preaching for some reason. And then there's Ernest Angley, who thinks he is God, and inspecting the private parts of his congregation is a cool thing to do. So yeah, that's some of the stuff that we have to deal with. And I just find it mind-blowing. So.
Just a little. Just a little. Do you want to plug your blog or anything there, Beth?
Yeah, you can find me. I'm on Blogger. It's under Havoc and Chaos. And then, of course, you can find me on Facebook under Beth A. Hambridge, because I have 2 accounts. And then I'm on Twitter under Do9998. So.
All right.
And I like meeting new people and having fun in conversation, although I don't use Twitter much because I get confused too easily.
That's okay. As I said, I just started using Twitter in July, and I'm still figuring a few things out here and there. So don't blame you. It's a bit of a learning curve.
Yeah.
Not as tricky as Google Plus, though. I still kind of scratch my head at that. But
oh yeah, and I am on Google Plus, but I don't use it very often.
I only use it when I need a hangout.
Yeah, and that's something I'm learning too. So we're gonna do this again next week.
I'm game if everybody else is. So again, thank you to everybody who's been watching. Drop us a line somewhere. Find our Facebook. We'd love some feedback. Did you hate us? Did you love us? What else would you like to see? Feedback's always a great thing. As you can see on my little thing here, Heretic Woman on Twitter. If you search for Heretic Woman on Facebook, you will also find me. The picture that you see there is my profile picture. No, that's not me, as you can probably tell, but that's okay. And yeah, I do have a Google Plus. I look at on occasion, so if you put me in your circle, I will find you within a day or two, and that's cool too. So yeah, please, we'd love to hear your feedback, and yeah, we'll probably put something together for next week. Yeah, I don't have any blogs or anything, but I will say,
Yeah.
I'm maybe gonna do a video one. We'll see. I have done some content for my dear friend Paul Q, podcaster, who runs the Koranify Me podcast. If you listen to Paul at all, then you probably heard my couple of little bits, and I will have some more content coming up on there. So if you haven't listened to Paul, please do. He's awesome. And yeah, so you can see some of my stuff there. So yeah, please let us know what you think. Give us suggestions. We're open-minded folk, and we want to hear from you. So I think that does it for tonight. And Cashman, we love you. Professor Steven, miss you too. As I said at the beginning of the show, we know life can get in the way, and we hope that you can come back at some point to whatever manner that works for your life. And in the meantime, we'll keep the torch running. And yeah, hope to hear from you guys soon. So with that, everybody, have yourself a wonderful evening. And yeah, be rational.